Dear seeker, pause for a moment and reflect honestly. You breathe every second of your life, yet has anyone ever taught you why this breath exists, or what sacred power it carries? You may have read about rituals, fire ceremonies, temples, and mantras, but still feel a quiet emptiness inside. The mind remains restless, the heart seeks peace, and suffering seems to repeat itself in subtle ways. Now ask yourself this gentle question: what if the solution was never outside you at all? What if the most ancient and powerful spiritual sacrifice was designed to happen within your own body, silently, naturally, through the breath you already possess? The scriptures speak of sacred fire, but few tell you where that fire truly burns. Lahiri Mahasaya softly reminded seekers that God does not dwell only in temples or rituals, but in direct inner experience. You do not need to abandon your life, your family, or your responsibilities to touch truth. You only need understanding and sincere practice. Imagine if every breath you take could purify the mind, dissolve old fears, and gently free you from unseen burdens of karma. Imagine if the spine itself were a sacred altar, and awareness the priest. This teaching is not belief, not blind faith, and not imagination. It is a living inner science, tested by generations of yogis. Today's problem is not lack of effort, but lack of right direction. So before seeking another method, another teacher, or another answer outside, let us turn inward together and rediscover the Yagya of the breath, the inner fire sacrifice that transforms life from the inside out. Dear seeker, to understand the Yagya of the breath, we must first gently correct a misunderstanding that has existed for centuries. When people hear the word Yagya, they often imagine fire pits, offerings, chants, and priests performing rituals. These practices were never wrong, but they were never the final meaning. The ancient rishis used outer rituals as teaching tools, not as the destination. Lahiri Mahasaya explained this with great clarity and compassion. He said that outer Yagya is symbolic, meant to point the seeker inward. Fire outside can purify objects, but it cannot purify consciousness. True transformation must happen where suffering arises, within the mind and breath. The scriptures describe Yagya as an act of offering, but what is the most constant offering available to every human being? It is the breath. From birth to death, breath never leaves you, yet it remains mostly unconscious. Lahiri Mahasaya taught that when breath is offered consciously into awareness, Yagya becomes real and living. In this inner Yagya, nothing material is sacrificed. Instead, restlessness, ego, fear, and karmic impressions are slowly offered into the fire of awareness. This is why ancient texts say that the highest Yagya leads to liberation. They were not praising ritual action, they were revealing an inner science. When awareness replaces habit, and breath replaces objects, the sacrifice becomes internal and continuous. You do not perform this Yagya once a year or once in a lifetime. It happens daily, silently, breath by breath. This understanding removes confusion and brings great relief to the seeker. You no longer wonder which ritual is correct or which method is superior. The path becomes simple, direct, and compassionate. Yagya is no longer something you do occasionally, it becomes something you live. Dear seeker, once the true meaning of Yagya is understood, the next gentle revelation arises naturally: where does this sacred sacrifice take place? Lahiri Mahasaya taught with great certainty that the human body itself is the chosen ground for divine realization. It is not a barrier to spirituality, but its instrument. Especially sacred is the spinal column, which he described as the living altar of the inner Yagya. This spine is not merely bone and nerves, it is a subtle pathway through which life force and awareness move. When attention is scattered outward, this altar remains unused. But when awareness enters the spine, the ritual begins. Lahiri Mahasaya emphasized that one does not need to abandon worldly life to prepare this altar. Whether you are a householder, a worker, or a student, the body you already inhabit is sufficient. The chakras along the spine are described as sacred stations, much like the steps of an inner temple. As awareness moves gently through them, the body itself becomes consecrated. This understanding removes the false idea that spirituality requires escape or renunciation. Instead, it teaches sanctification of ordinary life. Sitting quietly, with the spine upright and the mind attentive, you are already at the altar. No external fire is needed, because the subtle fire of life force is always present. Lahiri Mahasaya reminded seekers that when the spine is kept still and awareness is centered within it, the mind naturally calms. In this way, the body becomes a living temple, and every sincere practice becomes an act of worship. The altar was never somewhere else. It has always been within you, patiently waiting for recognition. Dear seeker, when the altar is recognized within the spine, the next question arises naturally: what is to be offered into this sacred fire? Lahiri Mahasaya answered this with profound simplicity: the breath itself. In Kriya Yoga, breath is not merely air moving in and out of the lungs, it is the visible expression of life force. Most people breathe unconsciously, and so life passes unconsciously. Lahiri Mahasaya taught that when breath is guided with awareness, it becomes a sacred offering, just as ghee was offered into fire in ancient Yagyas. Each conscious inhalation and exhalation is an act of surrender. As the breath moves slowly along the spine, awareness follows it, and the offering becomes complete. Lahiri Mahasaya often reminded seekers that the mind and breath are deeply connected. When breath becomes calm and refined, the mind cannot remain agitated. This is not force, it is natural law. In this inner Yagya, there is no chanting aloud and no physical substance placed into flame. Instead, restlessness, distraction, and scattered attention are gently placed into the breath itself. Over time, the breath becomes subtle, smooth, and rhythmic, as if it knows where to go. This is the sign that the offering is being accepted. You are not trying to control life force, but cooperating with it. Through regular practice, the breath begins to nourish the inner fire rather than feeding mental noise. In this way, the simplest act you perform every moment becomes sacred. Breathing is no longer mechanical, it becomes prayer, discipline, and devotion combined into one continuous offering. Dear seeker, once the breath is sincerely offered into the inner fire, a quiet transformation begins that does not need to be forced or feared. This is the stage where the inner fire performs its true work, the gentle burning of karma. Lahiri Mahasaya taught that karma is not destroyed through struggle, guilt, or suppression. It is dissolved through awareness. Just as fire reduces wood to ash without judgment, the inner fire of Kriya Yoga transforms past impressions when they are brought into conscious breath. Old thoughts, emotions, and tendencies may rise to the surface, not to trouble you, but to be released. Lahiri Mahasaya advised seekers not to resist these movements of the mind. Resistance strengthens karma, while offering weakens it. When breath flows calmly along the spine and awareness remains steady, these impressions lose their power naturally. There is no need to analyze every thought or emotion. The fire understands what to consume. This is why Kriya Yoga is called a scientific path. It works according to inner laws, not belief. The seeker does not suffer more, in fact, suffering gradually decreases. Fear softens, habits weaken, and reactions slow down. This process happens silently, often without dramatic experiences. The greatest sign of progress is increased calm and clarity in daily life. Lahiri Mahasaya reassured practitioners that even when no visible change is felt, the inner fire is always working. Every sincere breath offered into awareness shortens the distance between bondage and freedom. Trust in the process is essential. You are not burning yourself, you are being purified. Dear seeker, one of the greatest kindnesses of this teaching is that it was never meant only for monks or those who withdraw from society. Lahiri Mahasaya himself lived a full worldly life, and through his own example he showed that liberation does not require escape from responsibility. He taught that the inner Yagya of Kriya Yoga is especially suited for people living in the modern world, those with families, work, and daily duties. Lahiri Mahasaya observed that outer rituals demand time, resources, and special conditions, which are often difficult to maintain in busy lives. The inner Yagya, however, travels with you. It requires no fire, no offerings, and no special place. Wherever there is breath and awareness, the practice can begin. Even a few sincere minutes each day gradually change the nervous system and the mind. This path does not ask you to reject life, but to live it with greater balance and clarity. Instead of suppressing desires or forcing discipline, Kriya Yoga refines the breath, and through the breath, refines the mind. This is why it works quietly and steadily, without creating inner conflict. Lahiri Mahasaya often reminded seekers that spiritual growth should make life simpler, not heavier. When practice becomes natural and integrated into daily routine, it lasts. The modern seeker does not need more complexity, they need a method that fits reality. This inner Yagya does exactly that. It allows spiritual progress to happen alongside work, relationships, and service. In this way, everyday life itself becomes part of the sacred process, and liberation moves from being a distant ideal to a living, reachable experience. Dear seeker, when the inner Yagya is practiced patiently over time, its fruits begin to appear in quiet and meaningful ways. Lahiri Mahasaya taught that the goal of Kriya Yoga is not extraordinary experiences, but inner stability and clarity. As the breath becomes subtle and awareness remains centered in the spine, the mind slowly learns to rest. Thoughts lose their urgency, emotions soften, and reactions no longer control your actions. This is the sign that the inner fire is steady and balanced. Lahiri Mahasaya reminded seekers that progress should be measured by peace, not visions. A practitioner of the inner fire becomes calm without effort and joyful without reason. Life continues with its challenges, but the practitioner is no longer shaken in the same way. Daily activities are performed with greater awareness and less inner resistance. Over time, the breath itself becomes a guide, naturally slowing and deepening during moments of stillness. This is not something to force, it happens as a result of sincere practice. Lahiri Mahasaya advised practitioners to remain humble and regular, never impatient for results. The inner Yagya matures like a flame protected from the wind, quiet, steady, and luminous. Eventually, the sense of separation between practice and life disappears. Breathing, working, resting, and observing all flow together. The seeker no longer feels they are doing yoga. They are living it. In this state, the inner fire does not disturb the world, it illuminates it. Freedom is no longer a future promise, it becomes a present, lived reality. Dear seeker, as we gently come to the close of this reflection, remember that nothing shared here is meant to remain only as words or ideas. Lahiri Mahasaya always reminded seekers that truth is not realized by listening alone, but by simple, sincere practice lived day by day. The Yagya of the breath does not ask you to become someone new. It only asks you to become more aware of what is already happening within you. Your breath is always present, your spine is always with you, and the inner fire is never extinguished. All that is needed is gentle attention and patience. Lahiri Mahasaya assured seekers that even imperfect practice, when done regularly, carries immense power. So after this video ends, do not rush away. Sit quietly for a moment. Feel one calm breath. Let that be your offering. If this teaching resonated with you, I invite you to take one small step of participation. Please write a comment below sharing what touched you most. Was it the idea of breath as offering, the spine as altar, or the quiet burning of karma? Your reflection may guide and inspire another seeker who reads it. Also, let me know what you would like to hear next. Would you like a deeper explanation of Kriya practice, the role of the Guru, the science of breath and mind, or guidance for daily discipline? This space grows through shared sincerity, not numbers alone. If you found value here, consider liking the video and subscribing so we can continue this journey together, step by step, breath by breath. May your inner fire remain steady, kind, and illuminating in all aspects of life. Until we meet again on this sacred path. Jai Gurudev.